Good morning, y'all. It's time for another Throwback Thursday. And today we're going to be talking about the Hound of Goshen. It's a ghost story from my area of South Carolina. And we talked about that way back on episode 7. And that was on February 1st, 2021. So sit back and listen. And y'all have a good day.
Mystery, murder, and magic, and here's your host, Andrea Lee.
Good morning, afternoon, night, whatever time it is that you're listening, and thanks for tuning in. So today's episode is dedicated to a ghost story that's local to our neck of the woods. It's the story of the Hound of Goshen, or as we locals call it, the Happy Dog. And my son Alex is here again with us today.
Hello, I have returned for another episode.
And I'm so glad you're here, Alex. Now, Alex, I'm not sure if you remember this, because it was a long time ago when you were like maybe 2 years old. Me, you, your sister, and Grandma were coming home from Union one night. We were on Highway 176 coming towards Whitmire, and we had just gotten out of Union near where the Hebron Church is. There on the side of the road was these two huge white dog-like creatures. They were ginormous, and I'm not exaggerating. We all saw them and we were spooked. We were all like, what is that? And we were kind of like making sure each other saw it too, you know? Like making sure it wasn't just me or one, you know? So Mom was driving, and after we had got past them, she found a little place to turn around. So we turned around and went back just to get another look, but they were gone. Now, it was dusk, so it wasn't completely dark yet, but you couldn't see them running off through the woods or anything. It was like they had just vanished.
Maybe they were some great big white dogs, or maybe coyotes?
Maybe. Are you talking about Great Pyrenees?
Yes, I am.
Okay. I mean, it could have been because they were big, but they were even bigger than what I've seen of those. And I don't think coyotes get that big, though, or at least I hope they don't. But anyway, I look for them every time we go through that area, and I haven't seen them again. But you know what I think it was? I think it was the Happy Dog. And he found a friend to tag along and wreak havoc all over Union and Newberry counties.
Oh, God, no.
I know, you know my vivid imagination. So, do you know the story of the Happy Dog?
I haven't heard of it. I've heard of him, but I really don't know much about him, bro.
Okay, well, sit back because I got a story for you. Actually, a few stories about the Hound of Goshen. Now, it all started back in the 1850s, and the story goes that this all took place like on this road that's maybe like 3 miles from our house. It's the Old Buncombe Road. And Alex, if you're not sure where that is, it's that road we turn out to go to the Rose Hill Mansion. It's called that because it used to lead all the way from Charleston to Buncombe County in the mountains of North Carolina. But the story is there was a traveling salesman that was making his way through the town, and he had his canine companion with him, and it was a huge white dog. Well, this traveling salesman is accused of some crimes. I've read that it was petty theft, and then I also read that he was accused of murder. And he's a stranger hanging out in the area, so of course he has to be guilty. Now, a lynch mob forms, and they put him on trial. They found him guilty, and then they hung him. Now, his dog spends days at the base of the tree, howling and barking for his master. He was, like, seriously sad and just wanting his master back. But, so the people, they got tired of hearing him whining, and after about a week of that, somebody put the dog out of his misery. And then 3 weeks later, the spirit of the dog returns and seeks his revenge. Now, those that saw the dog said he had eyes that would burn right through to your soul when he would stare. And apparently he had this big toothy grin, and that's how he became known as the Happy Dog. But this was not a happy dog at all. And something else I should add about this is that after they had hanged the dog's master for the crime that they thought he had committed, They realized they had accused the wrong man. They hung the wrong man. Now, this dog has been seen all over Union, like the areas that connect Union and Newberry County to each other. Some people have reported seeing him on Brazelman's Bridge Road in Newberry County. And Alex, that's the same road that the Crybaby Bridge is on in Zombieland. And it's just before you get to Molly's Rock on 176. They've also seen him in the graveyard at Ebenezer United Methodist Church. And others have seen him on the Maventon Road. So, as you can see, the happy dog makes his rounds around the area. So it's not unbelievable that whatever we saw that night very well could have been the happy dog. There's a lot of legends within this legend about the happy dog. One legend says that slaves in the area of the hanging saw the ghost dog often. He would chase them and then disappear into the woods. Another one says that the lynch mob that hanged his master all had run-ins with him. Now, one man in particular was driving a wagon full of produce when the happy dog ran out and spooked the horse and caused him to lose his fruits and vegetables. They just spilled all over the road. The hangman was riding his horse down the road when the dog suddenly appeared. He urged his horse to run faster, but the dog kept at the same pace as the horse right by his side, and then as suddenly as he appeared, he disappeared back into the woods. Now, another man from the lynch mob had his hand mangled by the ghost dog when he bit the man, nearly severing his hand at the palm. And another member of the lynch mob nearly drowned when the happy dog knocked him into the creek. But the man who pulled the trigger and shot the dog really suffered the worst consequences from the dog, but he never even actually saw the ghost dog. His 4-year-old son went missing in the area that all the other ghost dog attacks had taken place. They say the little boy was never found.
That's pretty sad to hear about that little boy, though. You know?
It really is. I mean, that's somebody's kid, you know. But I guess the happy dog, he wasn't particular about who he attacked. There's also 2 doctors from the area who saw the dog. Now, the first doctor was Dr. George Douglas. One night as Dr. Douglas was sleeping, he was awakened by the sound of a young boy screaming. Dr. Douglas rushed to the front door, and standing there was a young slave boy who he believed to belong to a Mrs. Hardy from Maventon. He was yelling, "Keep that varmint from getting me." Over and over he kept yelling that. Dr. Douglas looked around from where he stood at the door and asked him what varmint he's talking about. And he said that he was riding the dark road when he heard something. He said he looked around and he saw the most terrible, biggest dog he had ever seen in his life. He thought the dog had disappeared, but when he turned back around, the dog was standing in front of the mule he was riding. That spooked the mule, and he reared up on his back legs, nearly throwing the little boy off of him. Well, I'm sure the doctor thought the young boy was just exaggerating, but he noticed the mule was actually sweating and trembling. Now, it doesn't tell me in any of the information that I read how old this little boy was, but I'm sure he was terrified. I mean, I'm 49, and the thought of riding a mule down a road that has no lights, or heck, even one with lights, does not appeal to me in the least bit. Now, I know that poor kid had to be absolutely terrified. Even if it wasn't a ghost dog, a huge dog coming out at a kid like that is scary enough, and then nearly getting thrown off of his mule. Now, Alex, just imagine some huge ghost dog appearing out of nowhere while you're riding your mule down the road at night, and then the mule nearly throws you off.
Just picture me riding a mule in general.
Oh yeah, I can see you riding a mule. Now, after the little boy settled down, he told the doctor that Mrs. Hardy had sent him there because one of her workers was sick. The doctor tried to get the little boy to go back with him, but he wasn't about to go back out into the dark where he'd seen the dog, so he stayed at the doctor's house, and then he returned back to Mrs. Hardy's place the next morning. And when he did, he took a different route because, just in case, Now, this is said to have been in 1855, and that is when Dr. Douglas started documenting these sightings. Now, there's two other interesting paranormal stories involving Dr. Douglas that I'd like to mention. So, in 1840, Dr. Douglas had a very beautiful mansion built for his wife, Frances Jeter Hardy Douglas. Now, I don't know if she was related to the Miss Hardy that I just mentioned a few minutes ago, because it doesn't really mention that part. But anyway, this mansion was named the Oaks, and it stood on top of a big hill in the Goshen Hill section of Union County. Now, in the parlor of the Oaks, just above a handmade mantel, hung a portrait painted by John Scarborough, who at that time was a world-famous artist. Now, the portrait was of Dr. Douglas's mother-in-law. Now, that sounds pretty normal, right?
This sounds pretty normal. Okay, average day there, you know.
Yeah, well, it wasn't normal at all. This portrait sings. Several reliable people said that when the mansion stood empty for a couple of years, they heard the portrait sing on moonlit nights.
What did it sing?
I have no idea. Probably, I don't know. Who knows? I mean, but honestly, I would love to have, like, seen it singing or heard it singing. Now, unfortunately, the Oaks was destroyed by a fire in 1967, but the portrait was saved and now is in the possession of one of the Douglas descendants over in Greenwood. Now, the other story about Dr. Douglas is that many people have seen the ghost of Dr. Douglas praying over the grave of his wife, and this has been seen for more than 100 years. Now, Dr. Douglas's wife, she passed away on July the 20th, 1895, and at that time he had already been dead for 20 years. Now, you want to take a wild guess where they're buried at?
Take a wild guess. You say Ebenezer.
You got it! Now, isn't that crazy? Because that's the same place that the Happy Dog has been seen. So, what if maybe all along the Happy Dog has been looking for Dr. Douglas to help his master?
Or maybe he can fix him, or maybe to fix him the happy dog.
Well, maybe he was. Maybe he thought he was a vet. I don't know. Okay, so the other doctor was a Dr. James Cofield. He was riding his horse home after visiting one of his patients in the Goshen Hill area. The doctor swore up and down that the dog ran under and between the horse's feet, and when he flicked his whip at the dog, it went straight through him. He even says that the dog jumped up onto the horse and rode with Dr. Cofield. Some stories say that he only appears on foggy nights or when it's mist and rain. But I can tell you that the night that when I saw what I believed to have been the Happy Dog, it wasn't foggy and it wasn't even raining. Now, in my research for this episode, I read where people who have seen him said he was big like a Mastiff or a Great Dane. Someone said he was like a Saint Bernard, but not a Saint Bernard. Now, everybody agrees that the dog is white. Other than those being big dogs, they're all shaped differently. What we saw that night on the side of the road was all white, but I'd say he was a combination of all those dogs that I mentioned. He was tall like a Great Dane, but not slender like a Great Dane. He was actually a big chub. He was kind of fluffy and shaggy. If I had been alone that night, I probably would have been like, nah, and forgot about it, but your grandmother and sister saw it too. Now, earlier I mentioned a few other places like Zombieland and Crybaby Bridge. I think every state has at least one Crybaby Bridge, and South Carolina is no exception. There's one located in Anderson. I believe there's one in Union County, but the one I'm referring to is located on Brazelman's Bridge Road in Newberry County. Now, the story of it is similar to the others. The one that was told to me through the years was a woman was traveling through the area and the waters were raging in the river. Somehow her baby became separated from her and the baby got washed away. If you go there at night, you can hear the cries of the baby, and some people have even said they heard the cries of the mom also. Remnants of the old iron bridge is still standing near the newer bridge. Now, I've been there many times. you can actually put your car in neutral on the bridge and your car will roll, and it's not on a hill or anything like that. Also, one time when me and your sister was leaving the area, I looked towards the passenger side window to see if I could turn, and there was a hand and fingerprints that looked like it had been dragged across the window that wasn't there before.
God, you need to absolutely take the bridge.
Yeah, we'll have to put it on our haunted tour list. Now, Zombieland is located on the same road. If you're coming from the Newberry County end of the road, it's just before you get to the Crybaby Bridge on the right-hand side. I've been there several times over the years, but now there's a gate up. The last time I went was the day of the big eclipse in 2017, and now that I think about it, that was probably one of the dumbest ideas I ever had.
What is it?
Now, it's a really old cemetery that has those altar-type tombs. It's kind of like mini mausoleum-type tombs, but they're not big like a mausoleum. It's just like room for one casket or whatever. I don't know a whole lot about it, but people swear they've seen creepy things there. It's popular on Halloween night, but like I said, there's a gate, and you probably could get arrested for trespassing. And it really sucks that I can't really find anything about it on the internet. But now, when I was looking for more about Zombieland, another notorious place in Newberry County I had never heard of popped up, and it's the Devil's Crossroads. The only thing that I could find about the Devil's Crossroads is its location, and it's located right when you're coming into Newberry on Highway 121 coming from Whitmire. It's those crossroads, like when you first get there and there's those red lights and you're going to turn left to go towards Walmart. Now, maybe only the name makes it notorious. I did read, though, that it was nicknamed that because there was 2 taverns there back in the day. And a funny thing is, when I was a little girl, there was a restaurant there named Hales, but it's spelled Hailes. So I thought that was kind of funny that it was Devil's Crossroads and Hales. But it doesn't take much to amuse me anyway. Well, that's all I have for today. Now, if you know anything more about Zombieland, please, post it on the Facebook page or send me an email. And also, if you have, an episode idea or a comment or questions, shoot us an email at mysterymurdermagic@gmail.com. And go give our Facebook page a like, too. You can find it at facebook.com/3M podcast. Keep it weird, y'all.